Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between the hills of northern India, there lived a young woman named Mira. She was 20 years old with dreams as vast as the sky above her village. Mira lived with her elderly grandmother in a modest mud house with a thatched roof. Their life was simple, but Mira's heart carried ambitions that no one in the village could imagine. The village of Dior was a place where everyone knew everyone's business. Women gathered at the well each morning not just for water but for gossip. Men sat under the banyan tree in the evening discussing their neighbors more than their own lives. In such a place, keeping a secret was harder than finding gold in a river. Mira worked as a weaver, creating beautiful cotton fabrics on her grandmother's old wooden loom. The work was honest, but brought little money. She watched her grandmother's hands tremble as age caught up with her, and Mira's heart ached with the desire to give her a better life. One day, while delivering fabric to the market in the nearby town, Mira saw something that changed her life. A merchant from the city was selling shawls with intricate embroidery that sparkled with tiny mirrors and colorful threads. The prices were 10 times what Mira earned from her plain cotton cloth. Women crowded around the merchant, eager to buy these beautiful pieces. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. An idea had taken root in her mind. She could learn this embroidery. She could create such beautiful work. She could change her life and her grandmother's life forever. The next morning, Mira's friend Priya came to visit. "What are you thinking about so deeply?" Priya asked, seeing the distant look in Mira's eyes. Mira almost told her. The words were ready to spill out her plan to learn embroidery, to create magnificent shawls, to become successful. But something stopped her. She remembered the village priest's words from a recent sermon. A seed grows best when planted deep in the earth, hidden from the world, nourished in silence. Mira smiled, just daydreaming. Priya shrugged and began talking about her own plans. To open a tea stall, how she would make it the best in the village, how everyone would come to her. She talked about what she would do, seeking approval and advice from everyone who would listen. Mira made a different choice. She decided to work in silence. Every evening, after finishing her regular weaving work, Mira would light a small oil lamp and practice embroidery. She unpicked old clothes to study the stitches. She practiced on scraps of cloth, her fingers bleeding from needle pricks as she learned. Her grandmother watched quietly, offering gentle guidance but asking no questions. When villagers asked what kept her so busy, Mira simply said, "Just the usual work." When friends invited her to festivals and gatherings, she often declined, saying she was tired. Soon people began to talk. "Mira has become so proud." Some said, "She thinks she's too good for us now." Others whispered, "That girl is wasting her youth staying home all the time." The elderly women clucked. Mira heard these whispers. They stung like thorns, making her eyes water when she was alone. But she remembered her purpose. She thought of her grandmother's trembling hands and the life she wanted to create. She dried her tears and continued her silent work. Meanwhile, Priya's tea stall never materialized. She had spent so much time talking about it, asking everyone's opinion, that she became confused and discouraged. Some people said the location was wrong. Others said tea stalls never succeeded. Some laughed at her ambition. Slowly, Priya's dream faded away, crushed under the weight of too many opinions and too much discouragement. Months passed. Mira's skill grew with each passing day. Her stitches became finer and her patterns more intricate. She learned to mix colors in ways that made the fabric sing with beauty. She created her first shawl, a deep blue piece with golden threads and small mirrors that caught the light like stars. Her grandmother wept when she saw it. "You have your mother's gift," she said, holding the shawl with reverent hands. But Mira didn't show the shawl to anyone else. Not yet. She created another, then another. She worked through winter nights when her fingers froze, through summer days when sweat dripped onto the fabric. She worked when her back ached and her eyes burned from the lamp's smoke. She saved every rupee she could, buying better threads, finer fabrics, and more beautiful mirrors from traveling merchants. She told no one where her money went. After a full year of silent work, Mira had created 20 magnificent shawls. Each one was a masterpiece, unlike anything the village had ever seen. One morning, Mira packed her shawls carefully and traveled to the city 3 hours away by bus. She went to the largest market and approached the finest cloth merchant. The merchant, a shrewd man named Rahim, examined her work with expert eyes. His hands trembled slightly as he held the shawls up to the light. "Who made these?" he asked in disbelief. "I did," Mira said quietly but confidently. Rahim bought all 20 shawls at prices that made Mira's head spin. He immediately placed an order for 50 more. "These will sell in Delhi, in Mumbai, even abroad," he said. "You have extraordinary talent." When Mira returned to Dior that evening, she carried enough money to build a new house for her grandmother with money left over to buy the finest loom and materials for her growing business. The next week, workers arrived in the village and began constructing a beautiful brick house where Mira's mud hut had stood. The villagers gathered in amazement. "Where did this money come from?" they asked. "What is happening?" They wondered. When the house was complete, Mira invited everyone to see it. In a special workroom, she displayed her shawls and explained her journey. The silent year of learning, practicing, and creating, well, everyone thought she was just being antisocial. "But why didn't you tell us?" Priya asked, feeling ashamed of the gossip she had spread. Mira smiled gently. "Because plans are like seedlings. When everyone handles them, gives opinions, and pokes at them, they often die before they can grow strong. I needed to protect my dream and let it grow in silence until it was strong enough to withstand the world." The village priest, hearing this, nodded with tears in his eyes. She understood the ancient wisdom. He said, "Work done in silence has a power that work done for applause can never achieve." From that day forward, Mira's business flourished. She trained other young women in the village, teaching them not just embroidery, but also the value of silent dedication. Her grandmother lived her final years in comfort and pride. And Mira proved that the greatest success stories are not those announced with trumpets, but those that bloom quietly in the dark, surprising the world when they finally emerge into the light.